You are in the Warriors Huddle with me, Bram, and with me, per usual, my master of all things video and sound, Maxime.
How's it going?
And my boy and producer, MT.
What's up, Dub Nation?
Gentlemen, KP episode. I'm fired up. My favorite guest is returning after way too long. The best draft insider who has spent season after season developing more background, relationships, and experience than anyone, anywhere within the sports media landscape. An athlete who has run more marathons and taken more hikes than all of the rest of our guests combined. A reporter who literally just completed an interview with Dylan Harper, the probable number 2 pick of the draft, right before she joined us. A basketball junkie who knows more about your favorite player's path to the pros than your favorite player does. And a woman who uses this show to keep her family on top of her dating habits, Miss Krysten Peak. What's going on, KP?
I know people who are just listening, you can't see this, but I'm actually wearing my Tour de Mont Blanc shirt. So, yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Synergy. Like we planned it out 100%. Boys, quick admission to you guys. So when we are tracking down KP, one of the ways I'll ask her to come on the show is via text. And today was kind of a bat signal. Last minute, we've got a draft segment that would mean nothing if we didn't have our resident draft expert. So I shot it out to her. And she let me know, I mean, in like informationally, not big leaguey. I got this thing with Dylan Harper. But then followed it up with, parenthetically, the number 2 pick in the draft, as if I had no fucking idea who it was. I mean, I host an NBA podcast, so should I be offended? Like how would you guys enter this after that back and forth?
She thinks you're an idiot, for sure.
Thanks. That makes me feel a lot better.
No, can I defend myself? I mean, I understand.
Ron Harper. Don't know if you've heard of him.
we're still a month out from the draft. The Warriors are nowhere near in Dylan's draft range. Like, I mean, I know you know who Cooper Flagg is, but then after that, like, if I said BJ,
oh my God, are you doubling down on this? You bastard! I'm trying to shame you, and it's like, oh no, really, Bram? I thought you knew nothing. Except for the one name that everybody knows.
We're not even going to get into Ace Bailey. You have no idea who that is.
Who? I credit to KP that I could come out here swinging, and she's like, oh, no, that's exactly what I thought. You didn't know shit. So good for you. Know what? I got to dump out of this. I thought the power dynamic would be in my favor, but no. Let's move on quickly. Okay, but we've, like I said, got a draft segment coming up. But I got to ask, in case there are peaks out there listening, any dating updates? Anybody push your dog again? Anything like ugly that we should be aware of?
Okay, no, but I have a different story. Okay, so this is not dating, but today I came to the realization, right? Because I have Gary. Everyone should know who Gary is, my beloved dog / child. And I go to the same park every single morning. And so then of course, there's people that do the same thing. They go to the same park every single morning. And I ran into this older man, and he's got this thick accent, this thick accent. Oh, Gaddy. He sounds like Gru from Despicable Me. That's exactly how he sounds. And so he's got a little dog, Buddy, and Buddy and Gary have become best friends. And now it's become this thing where I meet this man and his dog every single morning at 7 a.m. And he's 83 years old. And we, have our walk for like 30 minutes, and then we just go on our merry way. I was in my car today coming home from yoga, and I was just like, oh my God, is my best friend an 83-year-old man from Israel, like, that has this thick accent? I'm like, it's unbelievable.
What's your personality type, KB? It's just, do you like strangers? So as you described that, in my head, I started thinking nightmare. Like if my dog made friends with another dog, and then when you said 30 minutes, it blew my mind. If I found myself having to walk,
he's a slow walker. He's 83.
It's not the how slowly I'm walking. Is that I have to spend half an hour talking to a stranger every day. That sounds like a nightmare for me. Do you like it though? Like, do you like that now that this person's in your life and you're walking with them? It's an opportunity as opposed to an obligation, because I would like pick a different fucking park. I would be
typically, I'm like, don't talk to me. And the next day I would show up with earbuds and I'd be like, nah, this man is so hilarious. And the way he talks, I laugh at every single thing he says. He's like, oh, have you ever had a bagel and schmear? It is the best thing in my life. I love a bagel and schmear. Vegas, people don't know it's bloody freezing here in the winter. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like this man is amazing. Anyways, to continue on, family that is listening and fans that are like, why is she not talking about
Can you
the
do
draft?
the rest of this podcast in that accent? If that's cool. I mean, I don't know if that's
so
allowed to
funny. You guys, I'm gonna send you a video that I took of him telling me a story about him killing scorpions, and it was the funniest thing ever. You will know what I'm talking about. But now tomorrow I'm having a neighborhood barbecue. I realize every single person I'm inviting from the neighborhood is a dog friend of my dog. It's like the human part of, or the human parents of Gary's dog friends. So yeah, Vegas is going great. I'm going out a lot.
Here, I'll give you another sense of the kind of introvert apparently I am, and you're really making me feel bad about some of these decisions. We've had new neighbors for at least 3 years now. Those new neighbors have kids that are my daughter's age. We have never spoken to them. And every morning I kind of go out and I kind of see them, but we don't like a nod, but nothing beyond that. Earlier this week, my kid started talking to him. Hey, how old's your kid? I mean, like having like full-on conversation. And as that happened, I basically ushered her into the car, because if we establish that, like if we have longer than a 45-second conversation, every time I leave the house now, I'm going to have to fucking talk with them. And I 100% do not want that. I would prefer teach my daughter, don't make friends with your neighbors. Let's get the hell out of here. So, like just a little glimpse into my neurosis and psychopathic social behavior. But with that in tow, to our golden questions, you guys. KP, you'll recognize this. This is our mailbag. People write in. In fact, if they would like to get us a question, you can shoot that question to
Huddle@warriorshuddle.com.
Boom! They shot us some questions recently. And here's the first, and it made me, well, for obvious reasons, think of you. Quote, please, please, please. The first two pleases are in all caps. The last one is not. It feels like a serial killer wrote this to us. I don't know why it was like that, but 3 pleases. Get KP on the show and ask her if the 2020 selection of James Wiseman over Halliburton is the worst draft mistake in Golden State history. All right, so they are right to call for you, and this is topical. Halliburton is setting the world on fire. We're a game behind. If we were doing this after the 32-15 and no turnovers, this would make more sense. But he's still kind of established himself as a very quickly rising superstar, and everybody sees the upside and Wiseman and all of those things, right? You are our draft expert, but more than that, specific. You said, don't draft Wiseman. And here we are years later having fucked that pick up. So the question will be, I've done a little bit of research. We're going to go back through all of the, I think, draft mistakes, and then we'll figure out, is this the worst one ever? All right. Quick reminder to anyone who started, rooting for this team post-championships. We were terrible at the draft. Terrible. You may forget like how awful it was. So awful. I have some honorable mentions. Like they don't even get into the top selections. Honorable mention number 1, the 7th pick, Warriors take Wayne Hightower. I do not know who Wayne Hightower is.
Who?
Exactly right. They took him above? John Havlicek. There's a name I've heard of. In the 1983 draft, the Warriors used the 6th pick to take Russell Cross. Another guy I don't know. Who went 14? Clyde Drexler. The 1978 draft, the Warriors took the Purvis Short with the 5th pick. The next pick, Larry Bird. So there you go. 3 guys who maybe we didn't handle super well, but that's just honorable mention. All right. Let's get to the real candidates. In 1995, your Golden State Warriors had the number 1 pick. I remember this. I remember like reading all the articles and shit. They took Joe Smith out of Maryland, if memory serves. 4 picks later, with the 5 pick, Kevin Garnett goes. So Joe Smith over Kevin Garnett. Second one, next year, 1996. Warriors have the 11th pick, Todd Fuller. Who goes 13? Kobe Bryant. We take Todd Fuller over Kobe Bryant. Who goes after that? Steve Nash at 15, and then 17, Jermaine O'Neal. All right, so Fuller over Bryant, Nash, and O'Neal. 1997, the next year, remember this one too, we take friend of the podcast, Adonal Foyle. Who'd they take him over? Tracy McGrady. So that may have been a mistake as well, but let's ramp all the way up. Or let me pause to say, they did that in successive years. Like I've had this conversation about bad draft picks with the Warriors a bunch of times. And those names, the Todd Fuller over Kobe Bryant, like you hear them, but I've never, I don't think, placed them in successive years. I don't think I ever realized that they literally did this 3 years in a row. All right. So there's our past. Here's our current nomination. In 2020, the Warriors used the second pick to take James Wiseman. And as I've said, okay, they could have taken Tyrese Halliburton. Here's what I didn't remember. It's not where the list ends. All right. Here's some other players in that 2020 draft that proved to be way fucking deeper than I thought it was going to be. So James Wiseman over Tyrese Halliburton, James Wiseman over LaMelo Ball, James Wiseman over Tyrese Maxey, James Wiseman over Denny Avdija, James Wiseman over Onyeka Okongwu, who is coming into his own, is now the starting center for Atlanta, over Devin Vassell, and over Aaron Naismith, who's actually been playing really well for the Pacers. So not just one guy, a lot of guys. Maxime, we haven't heard from you. Which one of these sticks out as the biggest mistake ever?
First of all, I don't think it's the 2020 draft. Call it recency bias in reverse, but I distinctly remember the conversations that we were having with KP leading up to that draft. And obviously she was banging the drum for LaMelo, and there's no doubt that would have been a better pick than James Wiseman. But look, I mean, Tyrese Maxey went 21st. We're not talking about, you didn't read those in the order that they went, right? There's a bunch of teams that missed the boat. There's a lot of narrative that is going into these things. Everybody at the time was like, well, he's unproven, which is both a downside and an upside, right? Like, we're talking about all potential here. And you got to have the context of who we are drafting this for. I mean, if you take, for example, another guy that you didn't mention, not nearly on the same level as anybody else, but Isaiah Stewart goes in this draft, who was a pain in the ass against us and would have been a really nice rotation piece. But he went to Detroit, who, like, in his rookie seasons, playing him like 19 minutes a game. We know that Steve Kerr doesn't generally trust rookies, especially in the front court, which is where you would probably want to draft somebody. We were talking about James Wiseman being a big because we needed a big to fit in for this 2 timeline thing. So I understand the consternation. I understand James Wiseman is out of the league while Tyrese Halliburton is on the precipice of taking his team to the NBA Finals. But I just don't think it's as big of a whiff overall, considering the very narrow path that we were trying to tread with that pick overall.
KP, give the Warriors some cover. That 2020 draft is super weird. Why?
It was during COVID. It was the COVID draft. And so you talk about not being able to evaluate James Wiseman. I want to say nobody saw him play a competitive basketball game for an entire year because he only played 3 games at Memphis before he decided just to walk. And because, he got in trouble with what is now ridiculous to think about because he was getting money. And now you look at the NIL landscape. I mean, you want to talk about the loser. Everyone always talks about winners and losers, either of like the NBA draft deadline or the NBA, whatever. The real loser of all of this NIL, all of this transfer portal is any top player that came before the rule went into effect. And I think of players, like this player, Khalil Whitney, who was a 5-star who got over-recruited, had to come out at Kentucky. He's now struggling. I don't even know if he's still in the G League, but he was a dog, and if you think if the portal was still in place, if you think NIL was still there, some of these players that were pushed into the draft, they would have had more ample time to develop. But that really didn't apply to James Wiseman. All I'm saying is that scouts had to go and look at film. You only had this was also the weird draft year where they only allowed teams to bring in a certain amount of players, where in any draft cycle, like, you have players and they were individual workouts. Like, they had to get COVID tested and everything just to come out and work out for these teams. So it was just this small sample size. And when you're looking at team need, just like what Maxime pointed to, as opposed to potential, and you're thinking, yeah, we would love a rim protector. Oh, he only played 3 college games. He has a history of being hurt. Well, we'll roll the dice. And that's exactly what the Warriors did. But there was no way of knowing, unless you were crazy like me and lying to my employer at the time saying, oh, why am I in Atlanta to see Anthony Edwards and Denny Avdija? Oh, my grandma lives here. I'm not in the gym. Oh, why am I in Vegas for 3 weeks to see Tyrese Halliburton and a few other prospects? Oh, no. My uncle lives out here. No, I'm not traveling during COVID. You're crazy. But did I do that? Absolutely.
Quick admission.
Wow.
I practice saying Avija, which apparently is wrong. Avia apparently is how you say it. And I legitimately practice this before we hit record. So that's good for me. It worked out pretty well.
Wow. That's
As
incredible.
far as the 2020 draft being weird as hell, what I remember is reading articles about James Wiseman. And in the first paragraph, they're like, you know what? He speaks Mandarin. And it's like, is he about to go work at NATO? Like, who gives a fuck? Like, that isn't that. I would like to know, can he rebound, dude? Like, I'm not the other languages that he knows.
I didn't know speaking Mandarin translated to a basketball IQ.
It doesn't. Turns out it does not. I can confirm that immediately. Obviously, we're going to ramp up to you, KP. MT, worst draft mistake?
No, I think for the reasons KP laid out, it was too hard to nail it for the 2020 draft. But the players that we selected and didn't select, you called out Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady. Those were all high school players too coming out. So
Yep.
I think, like it's easy to miss on that. That was back in the day when you could go straight from high school. So did you know that Kevin Garnett was going to be special? Probably, but understandable. Same for Kobe and Tracy McGrady. But I think the number one pick is the one. Like Joe Smith was really good at Maryland when he played, so it made sense to pick him. But if you don't nail it with the number one pick, I think you deserve the scrutiny that you get for that. So out of all four of those picks, I think Joe Smith gets the harshest critique.
So I will distinguish, and we should say this, right? Drafts are crapshoots. Crapshoots. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Like,
Everyone's wrong.
2020 hindsight, everything we're doing now is incredibly unfair, and you don't know unless you have a fucking time machine. And that's part of it, right? And so when I ask this, let me define it better. I mean, biggest impact. They had an opportunity to bring this person in. They didn't. Did that have the nastiest impact on them? Here's my vote on this. Is the 2020 draft the biggest mistake from that side? Yes. Is the person they passed up, is Halliburton or Maxey or Bell or Avia, nailed it that time, are any of these guys, right? Are any of them in the same category of Kobe Bryant, of Kevin Garnett, of Tracy McGrady? No. But as far as impact, what would have happened with the team if they had brought in Tyrese Halliburton as opposed to James Wiseman? Do I think that would have brought the Warriors to a different place, a higher place than any of these other guys? Yes. You got to remember how fucking terrible we were. Here's how many wins we had in 96, 36, 97, 30, 98, 19. We bring in these high school kids, Kobe specific, winner, killer, they're out of here. They're not staying here in the Cohan era. None of that's happening. We bring in Tyrese Halliburton. I heard you, Maxime, that Steve Kerr doesn't like young players, but that's not true across the board. He likes Pajemski. If people can play his system and do what they've asked him to do, then he likes them a lot. And I don't know if there's a superstar in recent mind who has done that better than Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese
did it for the Pacers, but were you saying that when he was doing it for the Kings?
Well, he was willing to sit. This is a guy who went to the Olympics and did not play a minute. This is a guy who fit in around De'Aaron Fox when he went to Sacramento. I'm not talking about his skill set. We're just seeing his skill set now. I'm talking about his willingness to do whatever the hell the coaching staff asks them to do. And so do I think his impact would have been immediate? No. I think 2020 would have been a sidelight. I think 2022, he would have got some championship experience. I think now he would have been given the reins a little bit more, and he could have been our two timelines. If they nailed this, he's the guy they could have handed it off to. So from that perspective, I will say worst draft mistake ever.
Can I just also point out that the day of the 2020 draft, 5 hours before the draft, is when Woj or Shams, I can't remember who, announced that Klay Thompson had torn his Achilles. And as soon as I saw that happen, I went to Twitter and I said, with the number 2 pick in the draft, the Golden State Warriors select LaMelo Ball, because I genuinely thought that was a possibility, especially with an injury like that to such, a cornerstone player in your franchise. But when we're looking at the draft specifically, I don't think people talk enough about, you've got the decision makers, you've got the general managers, of course, they're the ones that are making the decision. And sometimes they make good decisions. Sometimes they make bad decisions. We've seen the fallout for Nico Harrison in Dallas and him making that decision and how he is the fall guy. But what I want to say is, like, I don't think people talk enough about the behind closed doors meetings that these decision makers, these general managers have to have with their coaching staff in order to keep the coaches happy and make them feel like they were part of making the decision as well. So when you say Steve Kerr doesn't like young guys and you are the GM, if you are whoever is pulling the plug and saying, okay, I guess we're going to take James Wiseman over whoever, then there are so many different dynamics coming into that other than just like, oh, well, he liked him over this. No, you gotta take in consideration your coaching staff and player personnel as well. And it's so crazy to me. Like I talk to NBA scouts all the time and they're like, KP, I love my job. I watch so much basketball and, all we can do as scouts is put our input in on a player that we saw, gather as much intel that we can for these specific players, and then we just serve it up. We don't get to decide. We don't get to fight, this many days later. Oh, you should have taken this person. Oh, you should. You can never play the shoulda, coulda, woulda game as a scout because they're ultimately not the ones making the decision. And all they do, they spend how many days on the road? They go and watch hundreds of really, really bad basketball games, all for what? To not have a say in what player they are or are not taking. It's just the draft it blows my mind. I love every single dynamic of it and everything that goes into it.
I'm going to change the question for you, KP, okay, and make it more specific to draft and then player specific as opposed to Warrior specific. But first, so this is not live. We can cut this part, okay? If you don't want to answer this question, don't. We'll just cut this back and forth. My first question to you is, the Dallas gets the 1 pick. The popular thing amongst people who are not working in the draft is conspiracy theories. Bullshit. This is fake. It's rigged. No way. Why did they do this? You work in the draft. This is you are an expert here. Is in your mind, is there any chance that this has been rigged?
No, I haven't been in the actual room, but I understand. I know a lot of people that have. I've obviously talked to a lot of GMs. It's a very high stressful situation that happens behind closed doors. And for those listening that just think it's automatically just like rigged, like this is crazy. This is all rigged. The Spurs were always going to get Victor Wembanyama because Victor is, was in a Robinson jersey or whoever jersey and, whatever. But the way the draft works is there are 1,001 different combinations of 4 balls, right? So it is like the lottery. And so before the draft lottery works, if you are the worst team in the NBA, so now Adam Silver changed it where it's the 3 worst teams in the NBA. They now have a 14% chance. Right. What does that mean? They get 140 different combinations randomly of those 4 balls. So you are given those 140 different combinations and it goes down the line, So when you're looking at the Dallas Mavericks and they have a 1.8% chance, that means that before the draft lottery even started, they got 18 possible combinations. And my old colleague, Jake Fisher, has been in the lottery room several times. And he said, KP, sometimes it's just one number and one ball that comes down at the last minute where it determines whether the Charlotte Hornets, who are one of the worst teams in the NBA, gets it, or the Dallas Mavericks. I wouldn't even know how they would rig it. But if you want to believe in conspiracy theories, sure, this is what's this is redemption for Nico Harrison. This is always going to happen because he traded away his prized possession just to get Cooper Flagg, who is already shown that he can play with some of the best players and future Hall of Famers in the NBA. If you want to believe that, I am not here to tell you you're not allowed to. But me being around it, I don't know how you would rig it.
If I was going to explain it, and I can't, if I was going to explain the plot line behind it, and if I'm Adam Silver and I realize, look, man, we need Luke in a different market. Like, well, it's got to be that. The Lakers are kind of the wrong way, and like that's a real marquee TV market for us, and so we got to make sure. So look, Dallas, bad news. We're going to need you to trade him, But good news. We're giving you the one pick. Like, don't you worry about it. That would have been the conversation behind this. I do not think it was rigged, but I'm just giving a plot line behind it.
That is a very. I understand how you would assess and get to that plot line. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. MT or Maxime, are there any sports conspiracies that you guys affirmatively believe in? That Jordan didn't want to play baseball, that he was gambling, that they froze the envelope, like anything. Have you embraced any of those?
Yeah, I think the Dallas draft was rigged. What you and KP say? 1,000% was rigged. No way a 1% chance hits. Like, that's just their good job for saving Nico a little bit of face. But but for sure it was rigged. In my world, it was rigged.
2 quick follow-ups, because I'm never sure how to do it. When we you can 100%, but I will occasionally do the 1,000%, 10,000%, 50,000%. Does it make it more? Like if I just say 100% versus 1,000%, is it more of an underline? And then 2, are you joking, MT, or really? Yes, I think this is bullshit. I think that they rigged this.
1,000% is a bold and underlined statement.
Okay, excellent.
200 for sure. I am 9 out of 10 serious when saying that I think it was rigged. I don't know how they would and why they would, because the risk of being caught, of somebody, on their deathbed being like, oh, here's what happened. They called me and I switched the ping pong ball, is probably too high, but I don't know. It's just too coincidental. I think Kevin Love's tweet summed it up perfectly. He was just like, come on, man, and laugh. Like,
when you're talking billions, like if they get caught, if this goes the wrong direction and like something comes out that's like, this is scripted, then that's a $1 billion mistake. I mean, they're going to lose so many fans.
The flip side of it, because honestly, I agree with MT, and I could talk a little bit about
1,000%. Do you agree with them? 1,000%?
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, yes, because sure, they stand to lose maybe $1 billion, but they stand to gain multiple $1 billion, right? I think the general take that you hear people saying is like, this is entertainment, right? This is not that far off from the WWE. Like, we need storylines. We need this new TV deal that's going to come in a couple, right? We need to make good on the one that we just signed. All of that stuff makes it make sense. And it's the same sort of thing. That's like another one that I wouldn't even say, do I believe in conspiracy theories? I'm just quite sure that Scott Foster bets on the NBA. It's like, yeah, because of course they're not going to throw him under the bus, because it undermines their product to such an absurd degree that it would render it like they would lose so much money. And in this case, the upside is in the same as the upside as Scott Foster's continuing to ref, is that they stand to make more money than they would lose. And look, there's if you are a $1 billion product, you can absolutely get access to the most cutting edge technology that a bunch of people who are in the room don't even have an understanding of. You could have magnetic balls, for example, that weight them differently. And, all you need is one person doing one thing. And I understand, right? I heard Ben Golliver talk about all of the minutia, and he was in the room of like, here are 30 different things that they're doing to like double check it. And this other guy comes in and they can like go to a backup system or whatever. I just think like it's, anything that is sufficiently different is indistinguishable from magic. I mean, it's the same concept. It's just like, all you need is enough money and you can do whatever the fuck you want in this world.
I'm going to push us forward, but I'm going to disagree first. The thing I disagree on is that they would lose more money by not doing it than they would if they got caught. I literally think this is a sport ending thing. And I'm not alone. You watch that documentary on Tim Donaghy, and one of the things I thought was amazing about it is that David Stern is the guy who outed him, and he outed him so that the FBI could not catch the rest of the refs who may have been involved, including Scott Foster. And the reason he did that is because David Stern knew the league's done. If the fan base thinks that this is WWF, you're losing it. That's it, ball game. And so you are risking everything, all the profit, all the money, including the additional money. And so I think that the risk is a lot bigger than the benefit. That doesn't mean that they didn't do it. People have made that decision a million times, but I did want to throw that out there. All right, I got a Judgment Theater, and I know we are running long on time, so I'm going to throw you a softball. KP, about Jonathan Kuminga, because there's a unwritten rule in life that anytime I speak to Krysten Peak, I have to ask her about Jonathan Kuminga, and then we will go to our judgment theater. Here's the JK take. The Athletics, Anthony Slater wrote an article recently that had this quote in it. Quote, Kuminga, league sources said, still has visions of becoming an all-star, not fitting into an ever-moving mid-tier rotational role. He wants to be a featured player in an NBA offense and chase the 20-point and beyond dreams he spent his life chasing in the last week of his 4th season tasting. Do you agree? You've seen this guy more than any of us. Do you think if and or when he moves on, or just his future, do you still view him as an all-star NBA player?
Look, well, I'll say this first. Just let him go. Just let him go. Okay. This is not good for anybody involved. JK, he needs to go. Do I think he still has potential to be an all-star? Sure. I don't know, because we haven't seen him play. We've seen glimpses. We haven't seen him hit his full potential. I don't want to sit here and say that his best days as a basketball player was when he was the number one player in high school. Like, I don't want to sit here and say that. So as a half glass full statement, sure, like his better days are ahead of him. He's still so young. He was one of the youngest players in the NBA draft because of reclassifying up a grade in high school. And then he had his one season with the G League Ignite. He held his own against, the players in the G League, but he is just it's not a good fit. And I understand that no one ever wants what happened to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Clippers to happen to them. No one ever wants to be that team that let him go. But at some point, I mean, now it's just sad. It's like, come on, bro. You guys have tried. This isn't working out. This is like a girl that is trying to settle in a relationship when all her friends are telling her that you can do better.
So many of portions of that last segment made me sad. I'm gonna put it into a single question, and unfortunately, I don't know the gentleman's name. So pretend that I am the GM of the Brooklyn Nets, whatever that person's name is.
Sean Marks.
Exactly. I knew that already and was going to tell you I am Sean Marks. So I am now Sean Marks, and I'm giving you a call. All right. And I'm telling you, look, Warriors hit me. They want Cam Johnson. They're dangling some picks, but really it's Kuminga. And I just don't know, KP. It's been 4 years, and I haven't seen anything out of him. Do you trust what he can do, even though he has not done it yet for 4 years?
I do. I trust him. I think that example was horrible because the Brooklyn Nets already have 50,000 draft picks. So if you are going to be trading Cam Thomas or Cam Johnson rather, then you better be getting a superstar. I'm sorry, like they're never going to package him in a trade deal.
I only picked Brooklyn because I knew their GM's name. So I mean, like it was a random thing I selected. It was what it was.
No, but like okay, so say if you're the Chicago Bulls. Right. And you really want Kuminga. Like you got to think of like a team that is like good, but doesn't have a ton of assets in the draft where they're very focused on rebuilding from the ground up, in a similar fashion that OKC did. Yep. So if you're the Bulls, I could see them do it. Even like that your next door neighbors, the Kings, I could see the Kings making a phone call.
I've thought about that. Sabonis, and I've thought about the Bulls too, and Vucevic or even Kobe White. But we're not making this a JK podcast. And appreciate we undoubtedly will have you back on for some JK trade talk, but to our judgment theater. And that's our final question. All right. So person wrote in and asked this quote, have you ever pretended that you've seen a movie that other people are talking about? This is right up my alley. I like social, awkward, conversational topics like this. So do not answer. Instead, guess. Let's start with MT because I know we're going to lose them early. So what's your boys' guess? Or what's our guess, including UKP? I'll go first. Has MT ever lied about a movie that he's seen? Yes. I don't think he goes deep. I think like he wouldn't provide any details, but like a lot of nodding. Like no like affirmative out there like, oh, I love that movie or whatever. I saw it here, but he wouldn't ever reveal that he hadn't seen it. So pseudo yes.
I'd say pseudo no. in that I think what he's going to do is instead be like, oh, but actually I went to the premiere of The Matrix before anyone else saw it, and I sat in the front row, and everybody was like, dude, I'm fucking awesome. And just sort of sidestep the question so that you never even realize that he hasn't seen the movie.
That is. Does it include him saying, dude, I'm fucking awesome? Because
more or less.
I'm going to say, yeah, he does it because I feel like everyone has done that.
Okay, every time we do the adjustment theaters, you flash your answer. Every time. 100%. Every time. We're still going to guess for you.
Not 1,000%?
No, just 100. I don't mean it that much yet. What's the answer?
As much as I like Maxime's answer about just calling myself awesome in front of people and seeing The Matrix early.
Fucking awesome.
Bram is right. I've done it once before, and it was social awkward. It was with a group of people, and my black card was in question because I hadn't seen Harlem Nights, and they were talking about it, and I just nodded, like you said. Bram was just like, "Yeah, for sure, I've seen that movie," and went home and watched it that night to make sure that in case I had any follow-up questions the next day, I could answer them. So I was just like, "Yeah, let's change the subject and talk about something."
You just described most of the late 90s when I was positive I was a black man for me. So I completely understand where you're coming from. All right. To me, you guys, what do you think? Have I ever lied about seeing a movie to fit in socially?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Of course I have. Dude, of course I have so many times. And what I've been doing it a bunch with recently is the John Wick series. I haven't seen one. Not one. And I found myself in a conversation recently where I was talking about the favorite scene. And I just kept throwing out the one with the dog because I know that he is avenging a dog. I mean, like, and that's like, and it kept getting close where they're like, you could tell they want to be like, I don't think there's that many, like, the dog isn't really in the scene. I was like, no, it just meant so much to me. I own a dog and I think people knew. So yes, absolutely. I've done it. Let's get this one out of the way. KP should go last, but we already know the fucking answer. Has KP done it? I guess yes. My guess would have been no, because of us, of the people here, I can see you being most comfortable being like, no, I haven't seen that. Like, fuck you. If you don't like that I haven't seen it, if this impacts like your opinion of me, I don't care. You know, like I don't need to impress you. That would have been my guess, but I think I was wrong since you said everybody does it.
Wait, can I tell you the opposite of what I do?
Sure. Hell yes.
So sometimes my mom will ask me, she'll be like, do you remember so-and-so from high school? And of course I remember them, but I don't want to talk about this person. And I'll just be like, who? No, I don't remember who that is. Like, what? Oh, well, I saw on Facebook. And I'm like, oh God, why did I lie to her? She's just going to tell me anyways. I'm like, but I do like the opposite. They're like, do you remember? And
I love that. Here's my version of that. I don't know why you tell people you went to a school and then they assume you know everybody in it. You know, like I went to like wherever, like, oh, do you know so-and-so? And when that happens, I normally go, oh, that name sounds familiar. It does not. I do not know who the fuck they're talking about. And I do it every time. Oh yeah, I think so. And then we waste the next 3 minutes as they tell me about this person. I do not know. No need to guess for KP. We already know the answer, which leaves mysterious Maxime. I'd never know on these. Oh, you know what? I'm going to learn from you guys. Anyone have a guess on Maxime?
I'll say no.
I'm gonna go.
I think he's a very, very honest stand-up guy.
Does that have to be the situation? I don't know if it's like honesty and fucking whether or not you're stand up.
Compared to you, Graham, he's very honest.
Okay, I 10,000% disagree with you saying that. So fuck everybody a million times. Just because of that, I'm gonna say yes. And I'm gonna borrow something from you, KP. Everybody does it.
Yeah.
Similar to MT. He's not doing me. He's not dropping the like, oh, I love the dog scene, and then nobody follows up. But if there's like a large conversation going on like a television show, and he doesn't have a take, I do not think he will say. I think it's error by omission. I don't think he comes out and is like, I haven't seen it. He just kind of lets the conversation go and let people draw inferences. Like, oh, he probably has seen it without saying anything.
Generally, you're not far off. First of all, I do tend to often tell people when these things come up, hey, I'm honest and really fucking stand up. So just right out of the gate, so everybody knows where I stand.
Not like Bram. Ever.
Not like Bram. People are like, who? I'm like, you don't know Bram?
Yeah. He's the guy who loves John Wick.
The one with the dog. Couple of things. First of all, KP, you touched on something that's, I think, very core to my being. I do not have the greatest memory, and my least favorite thing is when a group of friends brings up a movie that, of course, I've seen, but now we're all like doing impressions from that movie, and I don't remember a single fucking line. So I just pretend that I haven't seen it because I'm like, I don't want to be involved and outed as somebody that can't remember every single intimate fucking detail. So that's definitely a thing I do. Generally speaking, it is just I omit. I don't get involved. There's enough conversation happening. I do remember I was on a plane sitting next to a kid, maybe 5 years old. We you like order the food and the kid got the pasta and I got the chicken. And the kid makes this comment to me, like, he's an international flight. He's like, oh yeah, like, should have gotten the pasta, something to that effect, like making fun of the fact that I got the chicken. I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, where are your parents, And then later starts bringing up, like, that his favorite, because, I was like, oh, it's like, what do you like to do? Like, it's just trying to be nice to the kid later. And he's like, oh, Moana is my favorite movie. And I hadn't seen Moana, but I'm like, well, fuck you. And so then I started pretending that I'd seen Moana to try to one-up him. And that was definitely a very awkward dynamic because I hadn't actually seen the movie. So only with little kids, I guess, is my point.
Did you tell him Moana is much better with pasta? It's just like you've never
you don't even know. Yeah.
You've gone through it. Also, I don't know if you knew this, but if your friends like impressions, Krysten does an incredible Israeli impression. Like, I mean, maybe she doesn't want to do it right now, but like it does. It's pretty good.
Buddy, go get Gaddy. Go get Gaddy.
Oh, there you go. And if you'd like her to do that for like various movie roles, you let them know. It's an open offer. We landed the plane. We got here in time. Krysten, we missed you. Anytime you're not with us, we are missing you because your content is gold. I'm not alone in thinking that. For people who need far more KP in their life, where do they go?
You can follow me on social media at Krysten Peak, Krysten, by the way.
Boom. You know where to reach us. We're on social media. We've already given out the email. We are out there underlining sports conspiracies wherever they lay. They can't hide from MT. That is a promise. He will sniff them out. Absolutely. With that in mind, go Warriors. Hopefully, we'll see you real soon.